Hi Mum, you do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you empowered and remind you why you are so important. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? Hi, I'm Elena, Director of my private practice Supportive Therapy, an everyday Aussie mum trying not to lose my biscuits and my kids. As a mental health professional, I'm here to share my secrets so no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. Think of it like I'm your mindset coach through all of this. Everything is backed by science and psychology. I believe in you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself. To be happy and to feel in control, you need to be mentally strong. Hello everyone, welcome to Mentally Strong Mums. My name is Elena Bishop, and today we have a very special guest all the way from America in the Chicago area. Her name is Valerie, and so Valerie is a nurse practitioner in the USA. So she has a master's from Yale University, which is very fancy, okay? She has experience in pediatric neurology. She has a family practice, as well as she's in preventative health. And I think for everyone, if you can prevent anything rather than deal with it at the crisis, that's the best way to be. So just to let you know a little bit more about Valerie, so she's a writer and a host of her own podcast, To Mum is To Love. So obviously, if you really warm up to Valerie, I encourage you to follow her podcast as well. So if we want to know a little bit more, we'll speak about her, but she describes herself as an imperfect mother, aren't we all, who just loves her 3 little children. So she thought she would be an A+ mum before becoming a mum, and that's obviously this beautiful honesty, vulnerability, and transparency. So, however, within a few minutes after her birth, the illusion of control completely vanished. So, welcome, Valerie.
Thank you so much for having me, Elena. I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. Did I represent you in that little introduction?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Yes, a beautiful introduction. I really appreciate that. And yes, I'm a nurse practitioner in the Chicago area in the United States, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk with you all the way across the globe in Australia. And I am, like you said, I received my master's from Yale University as a family nurse practitioner. And I have experience in pediatric neurology, family practice, preventative health. And now I really am embracing my role as a mother and also using my experience as a nurse practitioner to advocate for moms, for families, and to really just help each other. Because once I became a mom, I saw healthcare from a completely different side, which was the patient side and the family side. And it was very interesting to me. And I wanted to write about it, and I wanted to help other moms with what I learned. And a lot of what I learned is really that I don't have as much control as I thought I would have had.
I think that's very common, and that's the thing. Humans need control to feel safe, and we need predictability to know where we stand. So when all of that control is taken away from us, it's that uncertainty, it's that turmoil, and it's that helplessness sometimes, especially as a first-time mum, when you do feel very vulnerable and it is out of control, and everything you did predict completely goes out the window.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say that I studied for motherhood like I was going to get an A+.
Yeah.
I knew, like in my heart, I knew I was going to do parenting differently. Like with my childhood, my parents did the best that they could with the tools that they had. But I knew that I wanted to do something different. And so I had that passion, and I studied, did a lot in pediatrics, learned so much about theories of parenting and attachment styles and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. I've got this. And like you said in the introduction, as soon as I became a mom, that control vanished. Because my first, she was taken to the NICU within 10 minutes. And I was like, I didn't study for this. I have no idea how to react to this. And I think like it was just so, it was kind of like an out-of-body experience a little bit, where like I recognize so much of what was going on with my healthcare experience, but it's different. When you're a mom, it's so different. And so I remember in particular, everyone, like every few minutes, almost would call me mom. It was like my name essentially vanished, and I no longer was Valerie. I was mom, and it was, Mom, can you help with this? Or Mom, we're going to hold your baby down for an IV or whatever that is. And I, that's common. That's something that people do. But a few years later, when I really started examining all of my writing, because I did write, it helped with kind of all my emotions during that time. I thought about that more, and I'm like, my name changed. And as I fill out my birth certificate of my baby, we also have a birth certificate that we're given as mothers, and it's a new name. And Mom is a beautiful name. I love the name Mom, but it doesn't take away from my original name. And I then looked that up in the dictionary. I really like the etymology of words and where words come from. And I'm like, what is mom anyway? What's a mother? And it's interesting, the dictionary says that, there's the title and the noun, mom, that we all know of, but there's also a verb, to mother. And I never thought of it as a verb. And to mother, according to Merriam-Webster, is to give birth, or to rise, or to care for or protect. And when I think about that, like what gives birth, allows one or one's family to rise or care for or protect, that's love. And that's like really all I can control. Like, and I can't control this mom that the nurses or teachers or society calls me, because there's so many expectations out of my control, or maybe my own expectations, this A+ mother, that I can't control all of that, and it's not reality. I'm an imperfect mom. Time and time again, I've been shown that, but that's okay, because I'm an imperfect mom who loves, and I live my verb every day. And some days are better than others, some hours are better than others, but it's that growth mindset. And it's not a pass or fail thing. It's we're growing and we're learning together, and my kids are learning as well as myself learning. And when I make a mistake, I apologize and we move on. And I think that's just so important, because as moms, we're just entirely too hard on ourselves. And it's just, I think, easier said than done. But the more I can think of it as living my verb, and that's kind of where this to mom is to love comes from, the more I feel like I can live in the present and enjoy my time with my kids and be mindful, as opposed to all the background noise of this A+ kind of facade that I think we kind of have.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And that was such a beautiful understanding of you and how far you've come, and your dedication to other people, especially because of your own experience. I just wanted to quickly mention, I love that you said it was almost like an out-of-body experience, because you
Yes.
a lot. And for a lot of mums who are listening and have gone through something similar, generally we call that dissociating, because it's the way your brain copes in that moment. An out-of-body experience, quote unquote, is like your body is present, but because it's too much and too overwhelming, your brain literally leaves, and it's like it's floating above you, watching everything. That's what dissociating is. And I was also going to ask you about your brand, to mum is to love. And I understand now why it's so important to you, to mum is to love, and where this came from. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. And that's very important, just kind of that paradigm shift. I think that a lot of my childhood and generational legacies, I think, is so important, because I feel like that was kind of a very I'm trying to search for the word, but it always has been on my mind of like I was saying earlier, I wanted to do something differently. But I remember the early years of motherhood, and still it happens, like if we're running late, like I'll yell too much or I'll get frustrated. And it's like, gosh, I sound a lot like what I remember. And like we have
It's funny when that pops up and you look
yes,
afterwards and you're halfway through it, you're like, "It's familiar. Where does this? Oh, that's my mum."
yep, yep. Yes, and it's so easy to be triggered by things that you don't even like. Your kids have no idea. Like I don't. So much of life with children, in particular, is living in the present, and they don't really care if we're running late for school or we're doing whatever that is. And so I
Anxiety, that's usually when they do. But otherwise, they don't.
yeah,
They're in time. They're on their own agenda. They've just woken up, Meanwhile, mum has to get everything ready. I'm running late. I've got to do this. So it's very difficult.
absolutely, absolutely. And so I think that I really tried to, when I realized that I'm essentially doing the same thing, this generational, almost like a generational curse, I feel like that we have passed down over the generations, and so many families have. And I don't know. I think that's a normal thing that we are. It's normal, but it's something that I want to strive to be a transitional person as well. Like I feel like my family did the best that they could with the tools that they have. But since I know that this is not what I want to do, I remember so well as a child how I felt when I was yelled at. Like sometimes I'll say it was like our house was infected, not with a virus or bacteria, but with yelling and frustration. And I just wanted to see smiles. Like I didn't want to be yelled at. But again, I think that it's so easy for us to do because we get into that fight, flight, or freeze, and that little amygdala in our brain, which is so powerful that we think, what are the consequences of being late? Like our amygdala can't really perceive, is this a life or death situation being late, or is this more of a perceived, like not a false, if that makes sense. Like it just, brain.
And it's understanding that nature versus nurture, the learnt behavior. And even though as an adult, I know what I don't want to do, sometimes when we're so dysregulated in our own body, we go back to our default factory settings, which is what we've learnt and what we've known. So that's when we realize we're repeating those cycles, we're repeating those patterns, because even though we don't want to blame our parents for anything, that's all that they had with the tools that they have. And if we haven't been able to evolve as mothers today, we then can't use our own toolbox. We then use our parents' toolbox. And that's when that intergenerational cycles repeats. And this mum is to love, is for you trying to break that intergenerational cycle, knowing how upsetting #childhood trauma, even though I came from a good home, even though I had food on the table, even though my parents might have been together, whatever it is, if I felt a certain way when I was younger, just as you said, I don't want to be yelled at and I don't always want to be on eggshells. I know exactly how I felt in that moment. And for you, that's the thing that you've almost made a promise to yourself, to mum, is to love, to change that and to do your best. So I think that's extremely admirable. So I want to quickly ask you, what has led you to think about mental back roads and highways?
Yeah, so thank you. And thank you that's a beautiful summary of what my mission is. I love that. And a lot of the mental back roads and highways actually kind of comes from that, because I had realized my mental highways in my brain are these habitual highways of yelling, getting frustrated if I'm too tired, or whatever that is externally that's triggering me. I'll take this mental highway. But our brains can take mental back roads. Like our brains are like a muscle that we can exercise as much as any other muscle. Like if I'm going to try to run a marathon, I'm not going to run a marathon overnight, but with practice, I can try alternate pathways. And I just love the brain, but I try to make it simple. And I think of, 2 nerve cells, like if your listeners can picture like a nerve cell connecting to a nerve cell. And there's the space in between them, kind of like tree branches together touching. And then there's the neurotransmitter, the chemicals in between. And those all kind of form.
Cells are like circles. So nerve cells are circles. And then the thing in between, it's like a little stick. So it's like two balls and a stick. That's what that's what you're trying to. So,
I love that.
Yeah. So sorry.
Yes. No, go ahead. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. 2 balls and a stick. And the more we use a highway, that those 2 balls and a stick grow stronger, with practice. But if I want to try something different, instead of being frustrated when I'm running late or yelling or whatever that is, maybe I'll try a different road. I'll try a different back road. And that's not going to be as stronger of a ball and a stick in a different direction, but I can still start to build it. And with kids, we know it's called like neuroplasticity, essentially. Like we, refer to that as building new pathways, learning new things. It's a lot easier for kids, but it's not impossible for adults to do. And it's supposed to feel hard. That's like, I think sometimes we're like, oh, it's too hard, but it's supposed to be. That's how we're growing. So what I try to do in those moments and practice, and some days are easier than others, and some hours are easier than others, but I'll show gratitude in the moment. Like for example, my kids are not going to be this little forever. They're not going to want to show me their car or thing or dance around like a unicorn. And I am grateful for this moment that they want to show me, even though we are maybe going to run late a few minutes. It's okay. Like, it is okay. Or being mindful of that and being like, just the sun is out. It's a beautiful day. Like, my children are here, and like what am I, mindful of? Maybe I can smile. Maybe I don't feel like smiling, but if I smile, my kids will see that. And my overall like body language and all can help. It's essentially like these back roads are, just carving new paths that can lead to more mindful, more, I feel like, just joy in our lives. Because I really want to strive more in my life for simplicity. Like, I think easiness and ease is so overrated sometimes in society. Like, we want everything to be easy, but so many times the most important things in life aren't easy, and but they're simple. Like, I love the simplicity of just sitting with my kids and looking at them and cuddling with them, or maybe going on a little like tea date with them. Like, I went with one of my good friends yesterday to like a mother-son little dance thing, and we were just dancing together, and it was just a simple moment, but just so beautiful. And so anyway, that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but
beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's how for me, it's a lovely example of neuroplasticity at its finest. And if we keep on doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working, but understanding in terms of the brain, how it can be so reinforced, so difficult to break. And I think that's the definition of insanity. Keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And you're explaining this neuroplasticity as in, if sometimes we're doing the same thing over and over again because of the way that the brain is wired, knowing that we're not a slave to this, we are able for change and flexibility. And if we are to make these beautiful, simple little changes in our lives, then it will reduce these huge highways and increase these little roads. But the long-term gift that we get is this gratitude, because we're not constantly anxious, overwhelmed, running late. I'm yelling at my kids and I'm repeating cycles. I'm now in the moment. I'm now present. I'm now in control in the way that I want to be. And I'm actually grateful that my kids are here. So I think that absolutely a beautiful understanding of neuroplasticity and how you've adapted that to mum is to love. And it's that beautiful, consistent loving. And yeah. So this is actually really important. It flows on very well. So from your perspective, how can we cultivate self-compassion and love for our own inner child?
Hmm. That's such a great question because I feel like that's so important to recognize as us moms, because earlier we were saying like we're so hard on ourselves. We have so many expectations of what we thought we would be as a mother, what society expects of us to be as a mother, but really life is not perfect. We're not perfect. Like that's not like it's okay. And John Gottman, oh sorry,
I was going to say, but if everything was perfect, it would be so boring and awful anyway.
it would be.
Doing everything to sabotage it. There's no such thing as perfect. And even if it was
Yes.
boring. So, sorry.
Yes.
Got John.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. And perfection is like this. I wouldn't want a perfect mom. Like then, because life isn't perfect and you wouldn't know how to deal with, imperfection, which ultimately as we grow, we will be experiencing. And so yeah, John Gottman, who's a marriage researcher, he talks about this 5-to-1 ratio of relationships thriving on 5 positives to 1 negative, because for survival purposes, when if we focus more on negative, it helps us to survive, like as opposed to positive, it's not as helpful for survival as this is danger. So our brains are wired to think that way. But I was thinking, and I've seen some writing here and there about, what about 5-to-1 ratio with yourself though? Like that is an important relationship with yourself. I mean, in addition to your spouse and friends and all that, but if I say a negative thing to myself, which I do so much, just the internal chatter, I feel like so many of us do, practicing cultivating that 5-to-1 ratio and being like, okay, well, I said a negative, so let me think of a positive to say right now about myself. And sometimes it's easy to say 1 or 2, but it's kind of hard to get to 5. And sometimes it's almost like, well, I brushed my teeth. I brushed my teeth before this episode.
Yeah.
Just some random thing. But it gets my mind, again, these nerve cells, it goes on a different pathway then. Like I'm then cultivating a self-compassion pathway as opposed to, this focusing on the negative and going down whatever that loophole is of like, oh, I'm just not good enough. And because really we are enough. We are good enough. And I don't know about in Australia, Elena, but are y'all familiar with Mr. Rogers?
Ooh, no.
So in America, well, growing up as a child, Mr. Rogers was kind of like a big character that we all kind of recognize in America, of just very a beautiful example of self-worth and love. He's did an incredible job in a show and all. And recently I had heard one of his songs that I remember as a child. And it's called It's You I Like. And he plays the piano. And I never heard it as an adult though. And I thought it was so interesting because his lyrics are, it's you I like. It's not the clothes you wear. It's not the toys you play with. It's just you. And I think that's so important for us to remember that we're enough. And Mr. Rogers in that song was like, yeah, like I do need to like myself. And I don't think need was even the right word, because I think sometimes it's hard for me to like myself, especially if I struggle with self-worth and all. But again, there's that growth mindset. And I may not be there yet, but that doesn't mean I won't get there someday with practice. And so I keep doing that every day and being like, you know what, I'm going to give myself those 5-to-1 ratios, even if they are silly ones, because I can keep practicing that. And then that also,
it doesn't matter if they're silly, and that's understanding the principles of the brain and how easy it is to quote unquote brainwash yourself, because the brain is that computer, which is cognition. Usually I explain it like that because it's a bit easier. Your brain is the cognition, so you can either have positive cognitions, which are, I've done well today, I'm proud of myself, I tried the best that I can. Or you can have your negative cognitions. I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, I'm failure, I don't deserve love. And if you can understand your 5 principle, If you can just do those 5 things, and understanding the beginning of everything starts with self-compassion, you're completely correct. And if we can start to have self-compassion and try to change our computer, our cognitions from negative to positive, it gives us a different perspective on the world. And it makes things a little bit lighter and easier, because it's very easy, as you said, to go down that rabbit hole when you're having a bad day, when you're having a bad week, when your kids aren't well, when you're going through financial hardship, and then there's problems with your partner in your relationship. Very easy to then everything feels negative, everything feels hard. And if we can build up those resilience in those time and practicing those building blocks, as you say, of the 1 to 5, then it can help us remember that we are doing the best that we can, that we do deserve love, we do deserve respect, and I am grateful for my children.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So why is generational legacy awareness important?
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, so much of like the foundation of why I'm so passionate about what I do. And I think it's a beautiful example. And I'm not sure, again, I should have looked this up before our podcast, Elena, but monarch butterflies, are they in Australia, or some type of butterfly that migrates in Australia?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'd have to,
What kind of butter?
they're called monarch butterflies. They're like bright orange butterflies.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I know we all have cassowaries or
Oh, yeah, with this.
I did not know those are like dinosaur birds, which was, my son is like super thinking you guys are in Jurassic Park essentially, because there's
Up the north of Australia near Cairns, get a little bit of Jurassic where the cassowaries are, and they can be very dangerous for some.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, but that's a tangent. But so the monarch butterflies though, they will migrate from the north to the south in America, North America to Mexico. I'd have to look at, where else, but I know in the Chicago area, which is in the middle of the country, it will go to Mexico.
Ooh.
And
For margarita on a Sunday.
where is that? Sorry.
No, I'm making a joke. It's if they're migrating from Chicago to Mexico, they're having a little margarita on the Sunday. Right.
Yes,
That would be
very cool. I would too. Yeah, got like cucumber margarita. Those are my favorite. When I lived in Texas, those were the best. But so since it's cold in the Chicagoland area, they will migrate south, and it is not the same. So it's the same butterfly that goes south, but it is not the same butterfly that goes back north when it starts to get warm again, from Mexico back up north. And they travel in generations. So I think that's just such a powerful example of that. Sometimes the seeds we plant, they may necessarily, like, we don't know how much of a ripple effect we're going to make in our journey. Like, we pass on to the next generation. And if we want to change something, we can change that route if we want to. We can be that butterfly that kind of veers a bit, to change that, that destination. Or if there's someone like my grandma, gosh, I write so much about her because I remember her smile and how she smiled at me. And she was kind of like I want to continue that smiling legacy. So I want to continue that butterfly part. And I thought it was interesting. Like, I visited her grave recently. I was in the area, and the only thing it says on there, and it's so simple, is mother. And I thought that's just so beautiful, because I'm like, oh gosh, like, I feel like that's important to me as well, to kind of honor my grandma's legacy with all I'm doing, because she was always so positive and so beautiful, smiling all the time. And just, I knew I was loved. And I think just at the end of the day, if my children know that I love them, my actions, that's so, because I mean, we all love our kids. That's so, we all do, but how can we, show that in action in some way, is what I strive to do. And when I'm not doing that, just saying, you know what, mom messed up and let me reach fly again. And so, anyway, that was just kind of what
I think that's a beautiful
that.
philosophy, because especially when we do have anxiety, especially mums, postnatal anxiety, postnatal depression, pressures of all the work, and sometimes we do love our kids, yes, but if we're kind of like we call it bogged down with everything, if you don't say how you feel to your children will assume how you feel about them because of your actions. So if your actions towards them are always angry, or you're an inconvenience or a burden or stop it or anything, they're going to fill in the blanks and automatically assume that's whatever. But if you go out of your way, just as you were saying, to actually make them feel loved, make the effort to say sorry, make the effort to be authentic, and to try and connect and have accountability, that's then evidence for your child to know that they are loved because you've told them. And so then they don't have to guess how you feel about them. And I think that's beautiful, because that's almost a full circle moment for you when you talk about generational legacy. At the very beginning, within the few moments for you, about you've lost control and this isn't what I expected. Full circle moment for now, I want to have control of my generational legacy and what I want to pass down and what qualities this looks like and what legacy do I want to have for my children and even my grandchildren. So I think that's definitely inspirational to mothers who do struggle with control or finding balance or priorities, and understanding what I can aim for and who do I want to be, and having a word such as generational legacy can really help reframe. So I think that's fabulous.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so much, all of this is so much easier said than done. Like and I don't think that it's hard work. And, but that's the beauty of life though, like being imperfect, like we're saying, like, because I think sometimes if I think so much about, oh, I have to do it right, I have to do this, like, it's never gonna be just right. But that, again, that's okay. Like we talk to our kids about it and we learn, we all are growing, we're all learning. And I think with nature, I just love parallels to nature. And, in the autumn in the United States, like the leaves will turn beautiful colors, like up where we are in the north. And it's actually from decreased sunlight, which I thought was interesting. Like there's leaves are green with chlorophyll in the summer. But when the sun goes down, when there's less light and there's more darkness, that's when colors that are already inside of the leaf start to come out, because the green is more like it's producing food, and that's not the actual color of some of these trees. And it's the beauty of that. And I think that's just so interesting that darkness brings out that beauty. And so it's incredible, all the parallels to nature out there.
And that's such a lovely perspective and a reframe. We are mammals. We need to be outside. We need to start connecting. And if you can do something such as amazing as what you have to find those parallels in nature, it can make you feel connected and grounded, regulate your nervous system, and absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I've had the best time with you today, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Elena. I did as well. I loved our conversation.
Yes, I think every parent that's listening to this has been able to have so much out of it, from neuroplasticity to understanding control and how to help with our cognitions, and especially your legacy. So I think all of this would be so beneficial that if people wanted to find you, so your website is To Mum is To Love, and mum for her is MOM. So to mum is to love.com.
Correct. Yes. So tomomistoLove.com, and yes, MOM because you guys do MUM, correct?
Yes. So we're mom. We're pretty lazy.
I love it. No, that's great. Yeah, I actually didn't even realize there's a different spelling, so that's interesting. And so now I know that.
Yeah.
So yes, Yes.
Everyone in Australia that's listening to this, if they're trying to search you, I need to clarify that you're a MOM mum and I'm a MUM mum. Do you know? And so I
You're like, oh,
So on Instagram as well, it's Valerie, Valerie, and let everyone know your surname and how to spell it so they can find you.
yes. Thank you so much. So my Instagram handle is at Valerie, Valerie _Probstfeld, P as in Peter, ROB as in boy, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, F as in Frank, ELD as in dog. And it's quite a tongue twister of a name. So, but I just decided just to keep my name on there. I'm like, well, what the heck? There's not many Valerie Probstfelds out there.
No, I think it's beautiful because that's that individualistic, having respect for other people and knowing that I don't want to have a surname just, basic. I want to be who I am. And that
Yes.
makes us who us. And so that's also the same with Facebook to find you. So you're also an author, a speaker. You can find her on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. Very busy, huh?
Yes, yeah. And my podcast that I have is called To Mom Is to Love with Valerie Probstfeld NP, and that's available on Spotify, Apple, and Google as well. And we typically have that every week. We have new episodes. So I'd love if you come check us out, and I would love to hear from more Australians, and I am just fascinated. Someday I will come and visit y'all in Australia and see your beautiful country.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So also, you're welcome to go onto her website and subscribe to her newsletter, because then at least she'll give you relevant information, especially if you liked everything that she has to offer today. To Mom Is to Love.
Yes, absolutely. I have a book coming out at some point. It is not published yet, but if you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get all the updates on that.
Yoo-hoo! We're subscribing, honey. How amazing, right? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yay. Well, thank you again for coming on today. I've really appreciated everything and all of your knowledge, all of your expertise, and I hope all of our mums have too. So please support Valerie in her quest to Mum Is to Love. So thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Elena. I hope you have a wonderful day, and all of your listeners do as well.
Well, we were just discussing, because for me it's 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and for Valerie it's in the afternoon, 5:30. So
Yeah.
Mama, and she's got to go.
Oh yeah. Well, I love it. It's like so interesting. The sun's setting here and it's rising over there. So neat. This beautiful world that we're in.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire podcast, and for that, I would like to thank you for your support. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at supportivetherapy_, and then you can find heaps of free resources online at www.supportivetherapy.com.au. So if today you did find my information useful, please leave a review and subscribe. By leaving a review, it's a value exchange. It's good karma. So I value your support just as much as you value my free information. And if you liked it, other mums can like it as well, hopefully, and then it can hopefully start a huge movement of people valuing mothers the way that they need to be valued. So please feel free to let me know what topics you would like to see in future episodes. Always feel free to get in touch with me in the comments. Otherwise, follow me on Supportive Therapy social media networks. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day, you beautiful mum.